Going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's good to see you guys. Just a heads up, there's going to be absolutely no shop content in this video. I have had an extremely long week at my day job. I've just had so much going on that I started to go to the shop today and do some stuff on the race truck, but I don't really feel like it. I'm pretty exhausted, and wanted to kind of speak to you guys and go one-on-one about a couple questions people ask me, things that are going on in my day-to-day life, and what's kind of to come with the channel. And I also want to go over proven horsepower setups for the 6-liter Powerstroke. There's not very many people that talk about this and let it be known what works, what doesn't work, what's streetable, what's not streetable, good toe setups that make good solid linear power, and do it in a clean manner. So today I want to sit and kind of go over a few setups that I personally have ran, that I know work, things that I would recommend, things that I don't recommend, and we'll just kind of go from there with it. So to start this off, I wanted to let you guys know that I am actually working on my own merchandise, clothing, everything from t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, which shout out to Fast for the sick hat. So I'm working on some clothing. I still am waiting for logos and rendering to come back from the designer. So we'll see what that stuff looks like when it comes in. I'll probably do a limited run first to just see how they sell and see how people actually like them. So this is going to be kind of a trial run. I have some parts coming for the race truck that I'm going to be doing a review on. It is a regulated return video. I'm going to be doing a regulated return review and unboxing. It's the same kit that I have on Heartbreaker. It's the same kit I'm going to run on the race truck. And it's the only kit that I personally feel comes complete with everything you need, whether you decide to keep a fuel bowl or not. So this is going to be kind of a unboxing video of that whenever that part comes in. So you guys will see that. That will probably be the next video. It should be here this coming week. It was supposed to be here this week, but I dropped the ball, got busy at work, and didn't get a chance to order it on time, so that's my own fault. Now, moving forward, what's to come for the channel? I don't really know. Life keeps hitting me. So things don't always go according to plan. We're going to keep moving forward. We're going to keep plugging at this and do everything that we can to move forward and proceed with the channel like nothing else in the world's going on. Nothing bad. It's just timing. My day job takes up so much time. It's very hard for me to put out content like I want to. It seems to be a never-ending struggle. But I do try to get content out for you guys. So again, I apologize for not being in the shop today, but I felt like this might be a good opportunity to speak to you guys about things that I feel like don't get talked about often enough. And also things that I feel like there's a lot of misleading information on. Now, I am by no means an expert at this. I can only speak for setups that I have personally driven and personally have ran myself. I can only speak for setups that I know are proven. That being said, we're going to kind of jump right into it. I get a lot of questions about heads. You know, what kind of heads should I run? Should I get 425s or ARP 2000s? Should I get 625s? It really depends on your horsepower goal. I know guys that have went 700, 750 horsepower on O-ringed heads and ARP 2000s or ARP 425 studs and never had a single issue. Me personally, I made it to about 750 horsepower and I stretched them. Now, there's a lot of factors that play into that. At the time, Heartbreaker was making somewhere around 70, 75 pounds of boost. That's just a lot of boost and a lot of pressure, cylinder pressures and everything on studs that only have, I believe, 210,000 PSI tensile strength. Not to mention 6.0s don't have enough studs in the heads anyway. That has been an issue for ages with these trucks. So moving forward into that, when you guys stud your trucks, I always recommend go ahead if you're buying new heads, or if you're still able to utilize the heads that you have them O-ringed. It literally is the cheapest service you're going to pay to have your current heads O-ringed, or it's going to save you so much money in the long run spending the extra, $200 to $400 to buy a set of O-ringed heads versus non-O-ringed heads. It's just, all it is extra security, guys. You have a thin copper or a stainless steel wire, whichever one it is, I can't remember, but that wire sits down in the groove of those heads, and when you sandwich that head down onto the block, that groove goes around the combustion chamber, or that wire goes around the combustion chamber and creates a groove in the MLS gasket, and it is sealed. It's not coming loose, and if it does, you better be running a hell of a lot of boost. Currently right now, I mean, Heartbreaker's on 625s, aluminum heads, and aluminum O-ring Kill Devil diesel heads, and I have seen upwards of 85 pounds of boost, and I have yet to have a head gasket issue. Could lift one tomorrow, could stretch a stud tomorrow, I don't know, but it's never given me issues yet, so I have no reason to believe to do anything other than an O-ringed head. Just do it while you got the heads off. It's not hurting anything. If anything, you're overbuilding, and it's just giving you that little extra blanket of security to make sure that you don't blow another head gasket. So moving into proven horsepower setups, I get this question a lot. What's going to make 600 horsepower? What's going to make 700, 800, 900, 1,000, and then above? Just keep in mind, guys, it doesn't matter what platform, gas, diesel, Cummins, Powerstroke, Duramax, LS, Coyote engines. Engines in a nutshell, you can only create so much power out of a platform until it starts costing exponential money. Every platform's a little bit different, but there comes a threshold that you meet that it's like, damn, I got to spend that much money. So people who throw numbers out there saying, oh yeah, I can make 1,000 horsepower on a stock bottom end. You can. It might do it once. It might do it 100,000 times. It really can depend on your setup, how hard it feels, when the boost comes in, how loose your converter is. There's so many variables that play into holding together an engine like that. It's best to, if you have the money, I'm not even going to say if you have the money. It's best to overbuild and not use it than underbuild and need it. So my rule of thumb, guys, I don't like pushing a stock bottom end past 800 horsepower. I mean, I have seen them let loose before that, but 800 is a pretty solid number on these things. The biggest thing on a stock rod engine is the rod bolts. The rod bolts suck in these things. So basic rule of thumb there, 800 on a stock bottom end, and then you're going to have to start looking at rods, rod bolts. I prefer putting main studs in them. And then you can go from there as far as your pistons, cam, valve reliefs, whether you want to delip them, delip the pistons. I mean, there's a lot of different variables there. But let's talk about fuel and air setups right now, and then maybe another video I'll get into what you should do for an engine build. So a good general rule of thumb for you guys when you're sizing your injectors is 2.8 to 3.2 horsepower per cc of fuel. So if you're looking to size your injectors for 650, 750, 850, 1,000 horsepower, all you got to do is times the injector cc size by 2.8, 2.9, 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, whatever number it is you pick there, and that's going to give you an average estimate about what kind of power your truck should make. So this video is going to be a little bit blotchy. I forgot to put that in at the beginning, so I'm making this actual clip at the end of the video, and I've got to merge it in somewhere, but this is going to hopefully help you guys, so I hope you enjoy the video, and let's skip on. That being said, let's say the 650 horsepower is all he needs. He still wants to be able to tow with it. He still wants to be able to, turn it up and go to the strip and bust off a decent number. you can get away with 225 100 conventionals and a S366. That's a very rudimentary setup. Back in the day, there were guys hitting 640, 650 horse on that all day long. And we're talking, 6-7 years ago. Tuning was not where it is now. Injectors and all that stuff was not where it is now. So that's a proven setup. It's gonna burn a little dirty. It's not gonna be the cleanest due to the smaller charger, but really 650 horse, that 366 is really, you're starting to push its limits. Now, let's say you want to bump up from 650 horse and you say, hey, I need a little more power, but I still want to be able to tow, but I want to have the option of turning it down if I need to and having really good street manners. A very, 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 very streetable setup and a really, really good setup to make power out of. An S369 SXE and 250 100 hybrid injectors. Remember this, guys, you can always pull fuel out. To a certain extent, you can always pull fuel out, but you can never add more fuel than what the injector will allow. So, the 250 100s, they're a really good injector, and you can run several different chargers on them. If you want a really quick spooling, low to mid-range power band, you can do an S369. If you're looking to take a little less torque away from it and you really want that mid to top end power, you can step up to like a 467.7 on the 250 100s. I personally ran that setup. Now to conclude that, I put a 2200 stall in the converter in that truck whenever I ran that setup. It was actually one of the setups that I ran on Heartbreaker, and man, it was awesome. You could still tow with that setup. I would definitely have a tow tune for it to take some of the fuel away from it so it didn't get so smoky. But even when I had that 250 100 set up in the 467, even on a hot tune, it was not dirty at all. Now I had the Mishimoto intercooler and the ODOG S3R intake manifold and, ported and polished heads. So I definitely had more airflow than the average person would. And I also had a cam in it, but still, I would like to believe on a relatively stock engine, just with heads and head studs, that would be a very clean burning and very usable, streetable setup for anybody. Now you want to start pushing past the 750 horsepower mark. It's time to pack your chapstick, boys, and pucker up, because this one starts to hurt. When you start passing 750 horsepower, you're looking at either going to something like a thumper pump for your high pressure oil pump. You're starting to look at having to go to dual high pressure pumps. And a lot of people will argue this. A lot of people will say, no, 330 150 hybrids, it'll do it on a single pump. You can run 330 150 hybrids on a single pump. However, if you have a stock pump and it's been in there the life of the truck, chances are it's not as strong as a brand new one. No brainer, right? So your chances of you being able to run a full pulse width tune on that are very slim to none. Is it doable? Yes, but the chance of it holding ICP is really not going to happen. I would definitely recommend, if you want to make above 750, you're going to have to step into that 330 150 hybrid range. You're starting to talk about, even maybe 285 100 or even 285 150 conventionals. At that point, you're definitely going to have more oil to feed those injectors to do it reliably and to make all the power in the world on a full pulse width tune. Unless you are on compounds, making above 750 horsepower and being able to tow and do it clean and not have astronomical EGTs and everything, excuse me, it's not going to be realistic. Not in a 6-liter. We're not Cummins guys. We're not Duramax guys. They've got a lot better airflow than we have. So you just have to keep that in mind. And trust me, going to compounds, you're looking at another $4,000 to $6,000 for good chargers, a good quality kit. It's a lot of money, guys. So really, once you pass that 750 threshold, I wouldn't consider towing with it. And if you do, I definitely wouldn't do it all the time, and I definitely would not do it heavy. When you start getting in the 800 plus range, like I said, this is where it gets expensive. You're talking definitely needing a set of rods, definitely needing rod bolts. Would highly recommend a cam. Would highly recommend the pistons, valve reliefs, D-lipped. Going into the heads, definitely got to have a O-ring. Definitely need 625 studs. Then you start talking about an S3R intake manifold to optimize the airflow for these larger injectors. So when you start hitting the 800 plus, things get tricky. This is where you've got to differentiate whether or not you want to be on a big single or whether you want to be on a moderate compound setup. I personally like the big single stuff, and you can get away on a stock bottom end for a while on a bigger single because it takes a lot of the torque away from the bottom end, and it takes a while to get a big charger spooled. So let's say Heartbreaker, for instance, 2200 stall in the truck, 350, 150 conventionals, dual pumps, you know, the whole nine. Anyway, it's got a 476 8710 forced inductions charger on it. It starts spooling, it starts really making good boost around 2500 RPM, 2600 RPM, something like that. And man, it pulls like a freight train. But by 2600 RPM and you're at, you know, 50, 60 pounds boost, you already have the truck up and moving. You already have inertia underneath the truck. So there's not a crazy amount of engine load being put on the bottom end. There's not a crazy amount of stress being put down low and really just cramming air down into those cylinders and putting all that downward vertical pressure on the rods. So you have a much, much less likely chance of bending a rod. Proven fuel air setups, 800 horsepower, 850, 330 150s, 330 150 hybrids, and an S472 would be an absolutely killer 800, 850 setup. It would roll out for sure. Now, I would personally keep that on the tight side on the turbine. So a 472 83 90 would be a very quick spooling 400 series charger for 330 150 injectors. And you can actually step that up if you want to bring the boost in a little later and want to keep some of the stress off the bottom end. You can run a 472 8710 or even an 8790, and it'll come in a little later on boost, but it'll take some stress off the bottom end. Now, when you want to start making 900 plus, you're looking at bumping into 430 150s or 430 200 hybrids. You're talking about a 475, 476, 480 single. You're really starting to get into big boy games. Now, I will say this personally. With Heartbreaker's setup, I had the 350, 150 conventionals, and my 476 at the time was set up as a 476 87.90 turbine. I put it on the, so I have a street tune, a hot street, and a race tune. On the hot street tune, I seen 85 pounds of boost, and it blew the seals clean out of the charger. The next day on the way to work, it was literally just hazing blue smoke, and when I got off of work, went to the truck, in the parking lot, there was a puddle about the size of a dip can just sitting at the back of my exhaust where it had dripped through the exhaust. So I knew it was leaking good. I immediately took the truck to my shop. You know, I had a little bit of compressor rubbing. The compressor wheel was rubbing the compressor housing, so it was just very minimal. I was able to get away with rebuilding that charger. But getting into that territory, you have to start looking at wastegates and things like that. Now, why I say wastegates, Heartbreaker, I had all the intention in the world of spraying a bunch of nitrous to it. And no, to answer anybody's question, I've not sprayed it with nitrous yet. This is the reason why. On my hot street tune, when I seen 85 pounds of boost, and it blew the seals out of the charger. If I had sprayed the truck with nitrous, it probably would have went somewhere around 95 to 100 pounds of boost. It would have disintegrated, absolutely just disintegrated that charger. And I knew that I was never going to be able to spray nitrous to it without relieving some of the drive pressure off of that turbo to lower the boost down. So that was when I went to the wastegated manifolds. There's a 40 millimeter Turbo Smart wastegate on each manifold, so that once the truck starts hitting about 60 pounds of boost, it'll start opening the wastegates and relieving some drive pressure off of that turbo. So once it hits somewhere around 70, 75 pounds, it won't make any more boost. The gates are wide open. So it's blowing out the dump tubes facing the ground. And you absolutely have to wastegate setups that are like that if you have any intention of spraying nitrous, if you have any intention of running full fuel tunes all the time, or even you just want to let the truck live, because all it takes is that turbo grenading, sending stuff through the intercooler, and if it makes it through the intercooler, it's going in straight into the engine. So you obviously want to alleviate all that if you can. Now, there's going to be plenty of people who may argue this with me, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. However, I can tell you from first-hand experience, that's what happened to me. Now, the injectors I'm running, the 350, 150 conventionals, are really based upon a sled-pulling, straight drag racing injector. They're really not a street-driven injector, so they fuel a whole lot harder than a hybrid does. If I had it to do all over again and I was going to continue driving this truck on the street on this setup, I would have went with probably 430, 150 hybrids, done a manual IPR and dual pumps, same turbo, everything. It would have burned cleaner. And we'll get into that. That's eventually a route I'm going to get into. But at the moment, the truck's going to stay how it is. And this is a good general rule of thumb. So I want to touch on this again just a little bit. Again, the 2.8 to 3.2 horsepower per cc of fuel, that number is going to, your horsepower number is going to increase drastically the bigger injector you get. So, for instance here, we'll do a short comparison at 2.8 cc's, or 2.8 horsepower per cc on a 190 injector. The calculator, this is backwards, but it says 532, okay? So if we step up to my injectors of a 350, 2.8 times 350 comes up to 980. Now, again, that's just an average, that's a rough estimate, and we'll even go to the 3.2 times 350 and it comes up to 1120. So you guys can do the math on this. Everybody wants to say BS, his truck doesn't make 1,000 horsepower, blah, 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 blah. This is simple math, guys. It's simple math. When you're sizing your injectors, do the math. 2.8, 2.9, 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, whatever number you want to use between 2.8 and 3.2, times that by the cc of injector that you're looking for, and that'll give you an idea, an average estimate of what kind of horsepower your truck's gonna make. So for instance, again, we'll do another one here, 2.8 times 430 for 430 hybrids. You're talking 1,204 horsepower, which is very accurate. Guys that have 430, 150 hybrids make anywhere from 1,100 to 1,300 horsepower. There's a big discrepancy there as far as real world scenarios and real world situations that's going to change that number drastically. You're talking about ambient air temp, you know, what dyno you're on, heads, cam, piston, tranny, you know, torque converter stall. There's so much that goes into making those numbers actually work. But then again, this is just to kind of help you guys get an average of what kind of horsepower you're going to be able to make off of what injector. So I hope this kind of helps you guys whenever you're looking at sizing injectors for your truck or your project or your new build or whatever your next step or next stage is in making that horsepower goal that you guys want to make. So I hope this video helps you guys. Again, I'm sorry if it's a little blotched up and things are misplaced and don't really fit where they should. But I wanted to kind of put this out there to help you guys so that you kind of know what size injectors you need to meet your horsepower goals. And we'll get into the engine side of things and the transmission side of things and what full setups really work best in making all this stuff work together. This could be a video that I could talk for hours and hours and hours on end. And a lot of people are going to have their own opinions about this. I'm just telling you guys what I know, what I have physically worked with, and what setups I know in the past other people have ran that are proven and work. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please drop a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you guys will know when I post. I hope everybody has a good December, has a good rest of the year, has a great Christmas. You guys will see me before the end of the year several more times, hopefully. So thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy it, and I'll see you guys later.